Welcome back to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel. The interview you're about to hear, featuring actor Jesse Camacho, was originally recorded on June 24th, 2020. You might recognize Jesse from his roles on Netflix's Lock and Key or Less Than Kind on HBO Canada. If you enjoy this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. Hi. Okay. So that's great. So to kick things off, how have things been for you during this whole lockdown period, and everything?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a trying time for everyone, but myself and my family and friends so far, touch wood, have been super lucky. As I keep saying, if the worst thing that happens to me and the people I know due to COVID is, our production gets delayed a little bit, then I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine with that. That's not a problem. And just with the state of the world, I'm just kind of, trying to listen and learn and support yeah, and again, so far, so good on my end.
That's great to hear. Um, I was just wondering, so you've had a lead role on Less Than Kind, and I was wondering how different is it being the lead compared to being a supporting actor in a project?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the approach going in was different. Obviously, Less Than Kind. First of all, I was, God, I think I was 16 or 17 when I started that job, and I was still really kind of finding my way as an actor. I'd been doing it since I was 8, but a project of that magnitude and a role of that size was really different for me. And being sort of the center of that show, along with a phenomenal cast that I still keep in touch with,
Yeah.
was kind of an exciting and big undertaking for me at the time. And it ended up being like really easy because it was so fun. So coming into Lock and Key, my biggest concern was not to slow the process down. That was sort of my intention. I said, listen, to
Right.
me, like as an actor, obviously there are much harder roles than actors on productions, but as an actor, the trickiest spot, in my opinion, is coming on as a guest star, because it's like, that they're already pretty established. They know what they do. You just kind of don't want to slow them down. And that was the mentality that I kind of went in with for Lock and Key. And it was kind of for naught because they were all incredibly kind and gracious to me.
Mm.
Like I used to pride myself on Less Than Kindness, thinking that I was really good at that kind of thing about welcoming people to the set and trying to make them feel at home. And I felt like I did a decent job of that, but I felt these people like knocked me out of the water. Like they made me feel like I was as big a part of the show as any of the really big regulars, the Amelias or the Darbys or the Connor or
Right.
Jackson. Like I felt like such a part of the team, and that's a testament to them. So after the first hour of being on set, the first day, I felt like they made me feel like it's so much a part of that team that I was instantly comfortable. So it ended up kind of almost being the same, even if my approach coming in was different.
Great. Yeah. So you mentioned Lock and Key, and I was wondering how different the experience is of being on a streaming show compared to network TV, because obviously that the whole season would have been released in one go, and I'm sure there's like different production, um, well, I guess techniques would be the word. But yeah, just the differences between a streaming show versus being on network TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the major difference, if we're talking strictly in terms of production, is obviously time and money. And Less Than Kind was really a labor of love, and it wasn't the biggest budget. It was, everyone loved the show. It was a critical darling, and we didn't we got it done in the time allotted to us with the budget allotted to us because we were a pretty well-oiled machine. We all really loved each other, but it was stressful at times, and it was really kind of pinching pennies at certain ways. Like, listen, it wasn't a zero budget show, but
Right.
there wasn't like, oh, we'll just add a couple more days here. I remember in the final season of Less Than Kind, we had an issue when we were shooting our series finale where there was a camera problem. We actually had to add on 5 more days of shooting to reshoot some stuff, and it was like a big, thing. It was a massive overhaul. Lock and Key, Netflix has money. They believe in the show. They gave plenty of time and all the resources that were needed. If anything needed to be reshot, as far as I know, I didn't really need to reshoot anything, but they could have just done it. Not to say that there were times where we needed to move quick or we needed to rush it. It wasn't an endless budget, but you
Yeah.
just certainly felt like we had more freedom on Lock and Key in terms of time and schedule, which was really really cool. And obviously, the sets are much grander and the shots much more ambitious, and that was really cool to be a part of. So yeah, I think the difference was simply scale. Scale and budget, and also as you said, Less Than Kind being released week by week. I mean, it wasn't that huge a difference for us because when we were shooting Less Than Kind, we never really had an air date we had to meet. It was sort of like they would shoot the season and then they would find the time to release it week by week, similar to Lock and Key, but they just drop it all at once. So that wasn't really a factor. It was just more the day-to-day kind of stuff.
Great. Yeah. I was wondering with Lock and Key because there was an earlier attempt to make it with Jesse McCartney as one of the characters. So I was wondering whether the knowledge of there being a previous attempt played into your version of it at all, or if the cast ever brought it up.
Yeah, I think there's two other pilots that were done. There was one in 2010 for Fox, and then there was one for Hulu that I think they produced a year before ours. And if I'm not mistaken, Carlton Cuse did the Hulu one as well, the executive producer and showrunner. And Jackson was in the Hulu pilot, who plays Bodhi. And if I'm not mistaken, again, Thomas Ian Barnett, who plays Sam Lesser in the Netflix incarnation, was played Rufus in the Hulu version. So I think,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, those are the only two cast members that crossed over. I could be wrong on that. Well, I mean, it didn't affect anything for me. I never saw the Hulu pilot. I don't even know if you can, or the Fox one. I know the Fox one's out there. So for me, it all kind of felt fresh. I had read the comics after I got cast, and I knew that there was an adjustment in terms of tone that, the Netflix, we kind of went for a broader audience, which I thought was a smart move when you're adapting something, because the comics are the gold standard. They're just genius. You can't really top them. But in a television format, I think that the adjustments made were really strong. But from one pilot to the next, I'm not exactly sure what the changes were. I think the Hulu pilot was darker, but it never really sort of affected me, except for the fact that, now that I think about it, the Savini Squad is an invention of Carlton and Meredith. They're not in the comics. So it definitely benefited me in that way, as the character didn't exist. But where tone or any kind of massive changes from one pilot to the other, it was way above my pay grade.
Right. Right. Just to kind of shift gears a bit, I was looking on your IMDb and some of your other projects, just to give an idea of I guess the scale. You've done voice work in Arthur, and you were in Kick-Ass 2, which is like two completely polar opposites. I was wondering if you had any other projects like that people might not know you were in, or that you might enjoy kind of like pulling out, saying, "Oh yeah, I was actually in that."
I think that the biggest one would be Kick-Ass 2. I'm there for like 3 seconds. But that was so cool. I was actually just getting off Less Than Kind, and I went in for that. It's a nice little scene that I got to do with Aaron, where his dad's getting arrested, and I kind of point that out to him. Again, it's blink and you'll miss it, but just being there for the day was sort of like a really, really cool experience, going like, oh, wow, this is a big Hollywood production. In terms of movies I'm in, a lot of the stuff that I'm actually the proudest of, excluding Lock and Key, because Lock and Key is quite big, is a lot of projects that I think people would struggle a bit to find. Less Than Kind is definitely up there. I did another really nice independent film in Montreal called We're Still Together, that I'm not exactly sure where it's available, but I'm super proud of that movie. What else? I just did a web series that just recently came out. We shot it 2 years ago, but it was kind of going through that regular development, after you've shot something so low budget, like where does it go? Where does it live? And the great creator, Rebecca, she released it now as a sort of pay what you can and all proceeds going to charity. and that's called Night Owl. The link to that is on my Instagram. I'm really proud of that as well. But other fun things, my father's an actor, and he actually played Richard Nixon in the X-Men Days of Future Past.
Oh,
And I
that's
got
cool.
and I got to go to that set, sit in the big, kind of waiting area tent with James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, not to drop any names or anything,
Yeah,
Nicholas and Peter Dinklage, and that was probably the coolest day for me in terms of being on a set surrounded by these people, and they were all so nice and kind to myself, and my sister was with me, and obviously they were kind to my dad as well. So I wasn't in that movie, but there's a big sequence at a stadium at the end of the film, and I was on set while they were shooting that, and that was a real pinch me moment.
yeah, that honestly does sound amazing. I can't even imagine. Do you have anything in particular in like your resume that you enjoy being recognized from on the street? If someone's going to recognize you from anything?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Lock and Key and Less Than Kind are the two that are up there the most. Those are the ones that I feel like I get recognized for more than any other. I did a couple episodes of the show called Cardinal. That's a really great kind of cop show up in Canada. I've been recognized for that. But yeah, I would say, it's probably Less Than Kind first and foremost. Not a lot of people watched it, but that show
Mm,
takes place in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada. And if I go to Winnipeg, when we were shooting that show, I would get recognized almost daily because that
yeah,
show was pretty successful there. And Lock and Key, I've gotten a couple times. Usually, I'm that guy. People go, "Ooh, where do I know you from? Did we go to school together?" That kind of thing. But those would be the two projects that I'm recognized for the most.
great, great. You kind of touched on it already, but was there anything you had in the works before COVID kind of came along that you might want to talk about?
Yeah, I would say, as you said, Night Owl's really the big one that just got released. It's for a great cause. It's a really fun web series that we shot in a 24-hour grocery store a couple years back, and I just think that in a kind of a weird, poetic way, it's really kind of topical now. As for a while, grocery stores were the only thing that were kind of open, and the people that work there, have really kind of emerged as heroes, kind of just right under the doctors and all that stuff. So I think that in that context, we didn't shoot it with COVID-19 in mind, but it
Right.
really does sort of ring true around now, and that's a really fun one. And otherwise, it was just going to be Lock and Key. That was supposed to have been going around now, but we've been pushed. We're not exactly sure when we will be going back. But again, as I keep saying, if that's the
Yeah,
worst, then that's not that big a deal.
great. So I know you already mentioned your father, but has there been any other actors in particular that have inspired you to pursue it as a career?
Oh my God, there are many. Both my parents are actually actors. My
Oh,
mother's an actress as well. Yeah, I sort of came out of the womb wanting to follow in the family business, and my sister's an actress as well. So it's the whole family. It's all four of us. Um, so yeah, other than my parents, which are obviously two massive inspirations for me, who would it be? I really like a lot of we call them character actors, meaning they're not supermodels, and that's sort of the field that I fall into. Whether it's somebody like Philip Seymour Hoffman or Paul
yeah.
Giamatti. There's a lot of those kind of great actors. Robin Williams was obviously a big
Mm,
influence on me, and I'm really liking this kind of new generation as well. I'm a big now we're talking people that I consider obviously as attractive as they are talented. The Jennifer Lawrences, the Saoirse Ronans, Emma Stone, and of like every other actor in the world, I kind of idolize Meryl
mm,
Streep. All those people. But in terms of like whose career I'd really like to emulate, it's definitely in that Philip Seymour Hoffman, John C. Riley, Paul Giamatti field.
yeah, kind of like you were saying, the ultimate that guy kind of actors that,
Exactly.
that maybe only that the film buffs would really know the name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So other than anything you're in, if you could pick one show or movie for people to watch during lockdown or quarantine, what would your pick be?
Other than stuff I'm in, huh? Okay. Well, I mean, everyone's seen this, but on Netflix, I was always obsessed with Stranger Things. I just think it's incredible. I was always a
Yeah.
big Stranger Things fan. I'm rewatching Lost with my family. That was sort of my
Mm.
religion in high school. I was a big Lost
Yeah,
guy, and
yeah.
I think that shows one that, with the benefit of a rewatch and a binge, I think actually plays a lot better.
Right.
Especially the ending. I mean, everyone I think loved the early Lost stuff, but towards the end, I think it gets a bad rep, and some of it's deserved, some of it's not. I'm also working with Carlton Cuse now, who obviously was one of the showrunners on Lost too, so that was a
Yeah.
really cool, surreal thing for me. So yeah, Stranger Things, uh, Lost. I recently watched Succession, which I really very much enjoyed.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and I also, and on a bit of a lighter, fun note, I really enjoyed Outer Banks on Netflix, which was the kind of, new, fun, silly, but well acted young adult show that I think was really, really fun. So, yeah, those kind of things. I've got the broadest, taste in terms of television. You go all the way from like I'm a big Survivor fan to
Yeah.
to Breaking Bad. Like I love everything. And so if there's a show you haven't binged, I think now's the time to do it. But the ones that I really, really highly recommend are Stranger Things or Lost, something like that.
Yeah. Maybe then to flip the question to something you were in that you'd recommend people to binge
Ooh.
during this period.
Yeah, I won't say. I feel like Lock and Key is a little too obvious, but if anybody hasn't seen Less Than Kind, the first season, I wish all four were there, but the first season is on Amazon Prime. And I think our pilot is a little uneven. I don't think that the show had totally found its groove yet, but then episode 2 onward, I think that it's a really fun show, and I really do stand by it. And that's the one I'll say because it's the one that I think is the most readily available to most people. Uh, so yeah, I would recommend Less Than Kind on Amazon Prime.
That's great. So so I've covered everything I had here beside me. Is there anything else you feel you might want to bring up at all? Or
I just I hope everyone's staying safe, and I think that the great thing that's going on with the world these days is there's all this great kind of information and perspectives that are coming out, and I think it's great for everyone to kind of read and be well informed, and also while it looks like things are kind of slowly getting back to normal, we all have to stay vigilant, and I'm hardly an authority on anything, but yeah, stay safe, watch Lock and Key, and stay informed.